You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? All right, hold on. Here we go.
What's going on, everyone? It's the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle, myaggienation.com, alongside fellow Eagle co-worker. I don't know what I was going with there. Alex Miller. Alex, what's going on, man?
What's up, Travis? I'm ready to fill my belly with much good food this week.
You are a food guy. You are a foodie.
I am a food guy.
So below, down here on this screen, is the lovely Zach Taylor. Zach, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Oh, gosh. I'd have to say the ham.
The ham.
Ham. I'm a big ham guy. I'm not necessarily, I enjoy turkey, especially if it's a leg, but I think I'm more of a pork guy.
Yeah.
So, ham, you get a nice green bean casserole in there for you.
Green beans.
What's that? No. What's that look, Alex? What's that look? Not a green bean casserole guy? Is that what your problem is? What you got against green beans?
Yeah, I just don't really like green bean casserole. I'll say it. It's subpar.
Fear the bean, bro.
No, green beans are good. Green bean casserole, not good.
No, you can just stop. You can stop before green beans are good. Green beans are terrible. They're disgusting.
Travis doesn't eat vegetables. Travis eats chicken nuggets and French fries.
But of all the vegetables, green beans are the worst.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I can think I've like 5 off the top of my head that are worse than that. Absolutely.
Same.
They're the worst.
Squash is probably worse. Oh, yeah.
Squash, please.
Squash, kale. Ugh.
Kale's
I don't know, man.
I mean, kale. What does kale even do? It's tasteless.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's podcast. What does kale even do? With Alex Miller. Alex, fill us in.
Let's get to some football talk. How about that?
You're boring. So, Aggies traveled to Baton Rouge. In honor of that, I ate some Popeyes today for lunch. They're playing LSU, Ed Orgeron's last game. So here's the thing. It's an LSU team that hasn't played well this year. The last handful of games played pretty well on defense, still haven't necessarily won games. Do we buy into the narrative that this is a team that is going to fight hard for their head man and he's going to be sent out, on a little mini parade? Or is this just a bad team and A&M is a much better team and that's going to prevail?
Go ahead.
I think it's both. I think one, LSU is not a very good team. I think a lot of that has to do with they've dealt with just a ton of injuries. Okay. They're missing a lot of really good players and they weren't a very good team coming into the season anyway. So, that the attrition that they've dealt with this year certainly doesn't help. But also, this is like Ed Orgeron's Super Bowl. I mean, if this is it for him, his last game in Tiger Stadium, he's probably going to throw the kitchen sink at him. He said how he ripped his shirt off after the game last week after they beat Louisiana Monroe. One of the LSU players guaranteed a victory over A&M. I mean, to be fair, A&M hasn't won in Tiger Stadium in over 25 years. So, A&M can't just chalk this up to be a win. Now, A&M should win this game, and I think they should win it by a decent margin. But, this is the Ed Orgeron Super Bowl per se. And I wouldn't be surprised if something crazy and wild happens Saturday night in Death Valley.
Zach, what say you?
Yeah, it was Clark, the linebacker, that had predicted the victory over Texas A&M. I'm right along with Alex too. I don't know if you could chalk this up to being a good LSU team, but they certainly have some talent. You're going to have talent no matter what, even if they're not at full strength, and that's what LSU has. Ed O, this is going to be his Super Bowl. This is going to be the team's Super Bowl, so to speak. It's supposedly supposed to be a rivalry game. It's a team that beat them last year. I think they take a lot of pride in playing at Tiger Stadium, especially at nighttime. So the house, without a doubt, I think is going to be rocking. You're going to have a lot of juiced up folks. I guess they've got a lot of juice going on, and it's going to be the most hostile environment that A&M has faced this season. I want to say it was, well, I might not should say because I don't remember exactly which player it was, but perhaps it was Jalen Preston was being asked at the press conference about the atmosphere and what to expect, or maybe it was Jalen Jones, I guess, was asked about the atmosphere, what to expect at Tiger Stadium, and he said, "Well, never been there before, but I don't believe it'll be any louder than it is at Kyle Field." But then again, that's your fans behind you. That's the home team. You are the home team. Well, this is going to be a little bit different. And what that happened at Oxford, I think, should give some Aggie fans a little bit of pause because A&M came out very, very flat. And I don't know if that was because of the environment or just kind of not being prepared. It was game day. It was a top 15 matchup against a divisional opponent. I don't really know how you get caught sleeping there. So I don't know if it was just a situation in which A&M got punched in the mouth and didn't know how to respond until later on in the second half. But they can't do that this weekend against LSU.
See, I think here's one thing on that though. I am curious what the environment at Tiger Stadium is going to be like, because if you look at pictures of the crowd the last two home games, the last 2 weeks that LSU's had, there's been a lot of empty seats there. This season is pretty much a lost cause for LSU. And, even against Arkansas, who isn't having a bad year, it looked like it was half full. And then, you look in the second half of last week's game against ULM. I mean, it looked like it was a game from last year where there was only 25% capacity allowed. So, with it being at Otron's last game, I don't know if the crowd shows up more, if it's A&M, the crowd shows up more, but I'm not convinced though that this will be the same Tiger Stadium experience that we've seen in previous years when A&M goes over there to play.
Yeah, I mean, that was against ULM and Arkansas, though. I think
that is true.
That A&M brings a little bit more juice or a little bit more intrigue than maybe those two. Arkansas is a trophy game, but I don't know. Let's look at a little bit at the numbers. At total defense, LSU ranks 70th in the nation and 10th in the conference. They're averaging 379.1 yards allowed per game. Total offense 90. They're 12th in the conference, averaging 370 yards per game. The places where they can hit you is really the thing they've been the best at is team sacks and team tackles for loss. They're 21st and 22nd in that, 5th and 3rd respectively. They're averaging almost 3 sacks a game and at about almost 7 tackles for loss per game. Tough outing maybe for the offensive line. I know Kenyon Green a little bit banged up last game. We'll have to see. You would think he would be good to go in this. Might be one of the better tests for A&M's offensive line this season.
I don't know if I would say that they have the best defensive line that A&M is going to face, but they certainly have a great run defense. So I guess you could say that, and especially given the fact that it's going to be on the road, it matches up very interestingly for Texas A&M and the fact that, the Aggie strength is their run game. LSU's strength is their run defense. So what's going to happen?
But strength is putting it one way because they are rushing defense 57th in the country, 7th in the conference. They're averaging 144 yards per game.
Yeah, I mean they held Alabama to 6 rushing yards for the night. I think the leading rusher for Arkansas was KJ Jefferson, who was averaging 2.7 yards a carry. He had 41 yards. Dominique Johnson had 40 yards as well. So, I mean, I think LSU is a very formidable defensive front. What they're going to, and I think that what they're going to try and do, and what I think every opponent is probably going to do, is load the box and make Zach Calzada have to beat you with his arm. They're not going to allow any team to just run it down their throat. That's not how their defense is built. I think they've seen that can be a winning formula against A&M. if the passing game has issues. And so unless A&M is able to get that sorted out, if they have it kind of like they did against Ole Miss, they could be in trouble.
Do you have any faith in Zach Calzada on third down? Because when something I kind of had thought about in that last game, when there's few things to pick out of a win out of Prairie View, in that the way Jimbo Fisher's offense works, it's ball possession. They want to establish the run. So you're going to face, when it works well, you're probably going to face a decent amount of third downs, but they're going to be third and short. Well, they've faced a decent amount of third downs, but a lot of times they've been passing distances. And I just don't know. Kellen Mond, you had a confidence between Kellen Mond and Jalen Weidermeyer that they could convert on a passing play on third down when it matters the most. You look at the one time they were forced to kick the field goal against Prairie View, got back down to third down, and I had zero confidence that they were going to be able to convert on a pass. Really, the only one that stands out to me is the third down conversion against Missouri to Anais Smith on that post route that it was able to kind of seal the game there in the third quarter. Do you have any confidence in him on third down, or am I just kind of speaking more anecdotally than actually statistically?
For me, in big game moments, has Zach made some big plays? Absolutely. Can you count on him to make those 80% of the time? I wouldn't say so. I don't think history has really lent itself to that, and especially on big time third downs when there's probably going to be some communication issues. A&M likes to take its time and getting the snap off. A lot of times it's right before the play clock hits zero. And so if he starts feeling pressure and gets happy feet in the backfield, it's going to be difficult for him to find open receivers. Now, here's the other side of that. You can see what A&M's receiving core has done this season, and the drops have been crucial in many situations. And so if
A&M leads the SEC in drops.
Yeah. So if he can somehow get on the same page with his receivers, and I'm not saying it's always been the receiver's fault. I mean, Zach has to make the right passes, but if they can get some kind of repertoire going, and we have seen that they can heat it up too. I mean, there's been instances against Alabama on that game-winning drive, even before that, in which he's been able to hook up with his receivers. They've kind of been able to develop this repertoire, I guess, or this relationship as they're going down the field. If he's able to mimic that on Saturday, then yeah, you like A&M's chances. But again, on third downs, I don't believe that this offense is built to be passing deep on third downs.
Alex, I got some stats here first, but I want to hear your take.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. Obviously, Zach has definitely gotten better as the season has gone on, and Zach kind of touched on I should say, kind of touched on it too. At times, A&M's receivers haven't really helped him out. You mentioned last year how Jalen Weidermeyer was kind of a safety blanket for Kellen Mond, and Jalen's kind of had an up and down year. Sometimes he makes really big catches and sometimes he drops balls that are just kind of routine plays. I'll give Zach Calzada credit because last week, probably one of his best throws, at least of the season, came on a third down, that 33-yard touchdown to Moose Muhammad off that back foot. I mean, that ball had really good touch and it was right in the perfect spot, going to the corner of the end zone. So, you have those plays, but then you have others where it's like, what's going on here? You don't really understand the development of that play, but it's definitely been some sort of a mixed bag. Whereas at least last year, A&M was definitely one of the better third down teams in the country.
So Zach Calzada, according to SEC StatCat, our buddy over at SEC StatCat, on third down, Zach Calzada is 37.66 completion, has a 37.66 completion percentage just on third down, which is like by far last place in the SEC of actual starting quarterbacks. There's a few under him, but it's guys who have no more than 5 completions on the season. So yeah, he is by far the worst on third down. He also, A&M has the second highest drop percentage at 12% on third down as well. And so, it's a combination of the two, but they just can't get themselves into passing downs on third down because they really haven't proven that that's something that they can really accomplish.
Optimally for A&M, and big surprise here, and I think it would work for most teams, but you want to be able to control the clock offensively. Yes, you're going to have to throw it, but you're going to only do that so that you can open up the run game. I think that they'll have their biggest shots at getting into the end zone and creating good plays on the ground, but that's got to be open via the pass. So if they're able to do that, if they're able to chew up clock, and as you said, put together some short third down conversions, and they're able to, 1-2 yards, what have you. And then defensively, A&M going up against LSU's offense, which has not been, frankly, good this year. If the Aggie defense is able to hold in there for full 4 quarters, you kind of expect a game similar to Auburn, which was what A&M would want. Granted, you want the Aggies to get in the end zone, or at least A&M wants to find the end zone offensively. But defensively and just being able to control the game from that standpoint, that's how A&M wants to win this game. And, they do not want to get in a shootout. They don't want to be playing from behind. I think it's important. And I saw a statistic. I want to say that A&M under Jimbo Fisher is undefeated when leading at the end of the first quarter. So if the Aggies are somehow able to jump out ahead and kind of quiet that crowd and set the tone, you really like A&M's chances.
Yeah. So let's get into 2 things here. Let's go around the wheel, because I kind of mentioned mine. My key to the matchup is third down productivity or keeping third down to short yardage situations. What do y'all say that A&M needs to do to win this game?
Go ahead. Oh, okay. I'll go ahead. I'll go with the intangibles of this game. You can't play into what LSU's hoping for it to be, this mega good send off for Ed Ogeron. Throwing whatever it takes to beat A&M. I mean, they're going to pull out all the stops. They're also playing for bowl eligibility, so this could be the last game of their season, nonetheless. I think that this is a game that, there's definitely some history here on both sides. It's a familiar, it's 2 familiar teams. It's a place A&M's historically had trouble winning at. And, I think that on the field, certainly LSU has played better on defense. And so if you're A&M, you definitely want to establish that running game early and kind of do your thing with Isaiah Spiller and Devon Achane, and not have to get into those passing downs where you're relying on the arm of Zach Calzada, knowing that it's been pretty inconsistent up and down throughout the season on those big money downs.
Alex, before we go to Zach, prediction,
I'll take A&M like 28-7. I know that seems a little big, but I just think that A&M finds a way to win this game by a decent margin. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out to be kind of like last year's game where A&M won 20-7. I don't think A&M's going to score a ton of points, but I also don't think LSU is going to put up too many points on this A&M defense either.
Zach, Keys, prediction.
And I've kind of touched on it already. I think the key is for Calzada to find a rhythm with his receivers, for them to help him out a little bit on some 50-50 balls to make some big catches. Given what we saw from Moose Muhammad against Prairie View A&M, you would have to think that he's going to get some playing time this week, because throughout the entire season, how many guys on the Aggie receiving corps have really been making those kinds of catches and have been making those 50-50 catches and been able to go up and get it? So I think if Moose Muhammad will get some playing time, if that passing game can find its rhythm, then that will open up the running game, and I think that will lead to A&M being successful. So look, Calzada has to find a rhythm, because whether he throws 35 times or 15 times, he's got to be able to connect with the receivers. Prediction on this game, I'm going to say, oh gosh, I'm going to say 17-7 A&M.
Interesting. I think it goes down, like I said, third down, got to keep third downs manageable. That's just something that they haven't necessarily been doing. That goes back to establishing the run. Like Alex said, Zach Calzada also, they can't turn the ball over, which is something you hear every time you talk about any keys to the game is win the turnover margin. They can't, I don't even think it's winning the turnover margin. They just can't turn the ball over because that will give LSU some life when maybe they won't necessarily have it at points in the game. So prediction, give me Texas A&M, and it's going to be 27-21.
Okay.
It's going to be a close one. I think LSU there's going to be a little bit of fight there for old Edo. So let's wrap up this segment with this, because this is what the people really want. And it's something I was doing a little research on here in the last couple of days. Bowl games, because there's scenarios, there's games to watch. And if you want to stuff yourself full of ham and green bean casserole, not something I'll be doing, but if you want to do that, you can, and then curl up in your favorite lazy boy.
Snuggie. Wearing a snuggie. Stretchy pants.
And want to turn on that egg bowl. There is so many A&M bowl ramifications that are going to fall into that egg bowl. So let me run through these. You can object if you think, but this is how I see it, the potential possibilities going. There is one really outside chance that A&M makes the Sugar Bowl. And the way that happens is both Alabama and Georgia go to the college football playoff. So you need an Alabama win in the Iron Bowl. And then you need Ole Miss to lose to Mississippi State, but it be a really ugly game, so that Mississippi State doesn't pass A&M in the college football playoff rankings, but Ole Miss drops behind A&M in the rankings, which with the head-to-head that Ole Miss owns might not happen. But if that happens, then A&M will be the next highest ranked college football playoff team. If Alabama and Georgia both go to the playoff, Sugar Bowl's there for A&M. Don't necessarily see that one happening.
Well, real quick, I mean, when you're talking about losing ugly, Mississippi State currently unranked. So, yeah. I mean, they're not going to be, whether they win Thursday or not, well, obviously they would win. If they win, they're still not going to jump A&M.
Yeah. I mean, well, the new rankings come out. We are recording this on Tuesday. New rankings come out today for the college football playoff. Not thinking Mississippi State would slip in, but they could be there low. So
real quick, just to add something in there, our buddy Billy Lucci over at Texags and I, Belucci Hour, we were talking about this scenario, and he made mention that if A&M is within, say 5 spots of Ole Miss tonight in those rankings, there might be a shot. If it's 6, which I think it's going to be 6, that is a real stretch for A&M to somehow jump up, that go up at least 4 and Ole Miss drop down 3 or vice versa. So I don't see that part happening, but we'll see.
Yeah, Alex.
Here's what I think will happen is that Alabama's obviously clinched the West. Hold on. Are you going to go through other scenarios? Because I wanted to lay out all scenarios here first. Okay. I'll let you go ahead. So I will give what I think will happen later and what A&M's best case scenario, in my opinion, could be.
Sure.
Later, after you go through.
So let's say Alabama and Georgia both win. They go to the playoff. Ole Miss beats Mississippi State. That puts A&M, I believe, at 4, which then puts them at the top spot potentially to claim in the Capital One Bowl, formerly the Citrus Bowl, Orlando. And so that is in the NCAA hierarchy. The Capital One Bowl, formerly known as the Citrus Bowl, is the only bowl that gets basically its pick of who it wants. So there's that scenario. If A&M were, if what's the scenario where Mississippi State goes to, no, if Alabama loses Iron Bowl, gets totally upset in SEC title game and doesn't go to playoff, Alabama goes to Sugar Bowl. Then Ole Miss will go to the Citrus Bowl, and A&M will then go to then it falls into that realm of SEC pick which bowl you go to. But typically that next team goes to Outback Bowl against
the Big Ten team.
Both of them, both Citrus Capital One and Outback are Big Ten opponents. But that's all hinged upon an A&M win at LSU. There is some other little scenarios. Those are kind of your best cases. If A&M loses, then you're looking at, you're in the realms of Music City, Liberty, Texas, those kind of bowl games. A&M has kind of already made the rounds through those once. So you kind of think, it seems like the SEC tries to kind of rotate people through as best they can. So those are kind of back in play. Okay, Alex, take it away.
All right. Here's what I think is going to happen. What I think is going to happen is that Ole Miss is going to beat Mississippi State this weekend. They'll finish 10-2. A&M, we've all consistently agreed they will likely beat LSU. We're predicting them to beat LSU at least. So that'd put A&M at 9-3. Alabama probably going to lose to Georgia in that SEC championship game, in my opinion, because Georgia has been unstoppable this season, although I think Alabama is going to give them the best shot for their money. So if that were the case, Georgia's in the playoff. Alabama's probably in the Sugar Bowl, but a 10-2 Mississippi State team, they're definitely in an at-large bid for a New Year's Six Bowl, probably the Peach Bowl, if I had to guess. And then at that point, that probably puts A&M in the Citrus Bowl. That's probably what you're looking at if you're A&M. Now, best case scenario for A&M is that Alabama upsets Georgia. They both make the playoff. Mississippi, Ole Miss, they get to be in the Sugar Bowl at that point. You're gonna need some help if you're A&M, but if chalk holds in the Big 12, Oklahoma State, they beat Oklahoma. Baylor loses, that could help A&M. You probably need some help in the Big 10, but you definitely need a little bit of chaos to happen, and A&M could potentially maybe sneak its way into a New Year's Six Bowl, but that is so highly unlikely.
Yeah,
I don't even know if we can tease that.
I don't even think that would be certainly a chaos. Now, of all the seasons to have a chaos scenario, this is one of them. But
would be, but I don't see that happening. So no. I think A&M is destined for the Citrus Bowl, but who knows? There's still a lot of football to play.
I do want to say something, though, with this weekend of games coming up.
Say something, Zach. Say something.
Say something. I'm giving up on you. I'm giving up on Michigan because I think that Jim Harbaugh and company are going to get run over this weekend against Ohio State. I don't even think it's going to be a game. I think it's going to be a
State
bloodbath like it was against Michigan State this past weekend. And I think Michigan is going to do an Oregon and drop 6 or 7 points because they got absolutely embarrassed. Meanwhile, I think, I tell you the game that I'm most looking forward to, besides watching A&M and LSU, is the Bedlam game. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know who's going to win that one. I think that is a complete toss-up. I don't think it really matters that it's in Stillwater. I mean, yeah, you're at home for Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State is a decent team. I wouldn't say that they're an elite team. I definitely wouldn't say Oklahoma is an elite team. If OU plays the way that they have the last couple of weeks, yeah, I think Oklahoma State beats the Sooners, and the Sooners would drop below the Aggies. If the Aggies win this weekend, a 9-3 Texas A&M team would be above a 10-2 Oklahoma team. I just think that's the way that it would work. I am going to say this about the Egg Bowl. I think that Mississippi State wins Thursday.
I'm leaning that way a little bit too.
I think that Mississippi State wins Thursday. I think the Pirate is going to dink and dunk his way past Ole Miss, and they are going to beat Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl. That being said, I do not think that Ole Miss will fall below A&M. because of the head-to-head. I think the committee will still put it. Very well might be one spot ahead of the Aggies if they both finish 9-3. But I think Ole Miss will have one spot ahead of A&M, whether that be at 11-12, 10-11, whatever. So another thing that comes to mind is that if Alabama loses to Georgia and loses handedly, well, okay, here's a couple of questions for you. One, do you think a 2-loss Alabama team could still get in to the CFP?
No.
It would be the first.
It would be the first.
It would be the
It
first.
would be the first.
And if it's going to be a team, it would be Nick Saban and company. Like if they were to lose, I don't know, by 3 points or something to Georgia in the championship game. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, if Alabama loses, you've got Georgia, Ohio State, and Cincinnati presumably would be your top 3 at that point. Then it's Notre Dame. Michigan, I believe, is going to get run over. So if Ohio State's in the picture, Michigan's not going to be in the picture. And then Oklahoma State. So a 1-loss Oklahoma State team versus a 1-loss Notre Dame team. Oh, by the way, OSU will also be playing in the Big 12 championship if they beat Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. So maybe you wait until the Big 12 championship game and see if Oklahoma State's able to beat OU again, or Baylor, I guess, at that point. Or do you does Notre Dame slip in there again and we see them get blown out by Georgia or whoever's number 1? Because it doesn't matter who they're going to play. Notre Dame's going to get crushed in the CFP.
All valuable takes.
I think in that scenario, it's definitely Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, probably Cincinnati 3, and then Oklahoma State 4. I personally would like that because I'd love to see an Ohio State Cincinnati semifinal game. Just because they're in the same state. So, but I definitely think in that scenario, a Big 12 champion Oklahoma State gets in over Alabama for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I think that's about all the time we have. We went pretty long. We hadn't, because of illness and crazy scheduling last week. We have not had a podcast in 2 weeks.
We hadn't seen each other forever, guys.
We just this is just a big virtual group hug for everybody, and just needed to last just a little bit longer. But the podcast is going to keep rolling on as I talk to Wilson Alexander and Leah Vann of the Baton Rouge Advocate to break down some stuff from the LSU side, and that's coming up next. What's going on, everyone? We're back with either the second segment of the My Aggie Nation podcast, if you're listening there, or just another great video that we produce here at the Eagle. I'm here with the advocates, Leah Vann and Wilson Alexander, both beat reporters for LSU, to talk a little bit about that game that's coming up this weekend between LSU and Texas A&M down in Baton Rouge. Guys, what's going on? Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
For sure. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to y'all too. So let's get into the easy stuff here from the beginning. What is the besides the obvious, I know, with Coach Orgeron, what is some of the big storylines for LSU heading into this game? Let's start just kind of on the field, and we'll get back to Coach O here in a little bit.
Well, yeah, I was like, I don't know who should start this, but I will say, I think we learned the other day that Ty Davis Price is 81 yards away from having 1,000-yard rushing this season. And then the defense, which Wilson can talk more about because he wrote about it, the defense made like a mid-season change, kind of overhaul, and it's been working out pretty well.
It absolutely has. They completely changed their defense, which is something that usually, as you know, Travis, takes months. They did it in 2 weeks at the bye, heading into the Alabama game. They've been playing pretty much the same sort of 4-2-5 the whole time for weeks on end, and they completely shifted that into more of a 4-3, even kind of a 5-2 bear look, able to fill the gaps better in the run, and then send a ton of blitzes off of that. And it's really been effective for them defensively, kept them in the last 3 games. Really could have come close to pitching a shutout against ULM last weekend. But because of that defense, they've almost upset Alabama and Arkansas. And the defense can continue to play well, then they could have a chance to beat Texas A&M as well this weekend. but it all kind of hinges on what the offense does. It's been a group that has struggled a lot. Just as the defense has gotten much better, the offense has just regressed over the course of the season, has not been very effective, and is not scoring a lot of points.
Go ahead.
There was a little bit of a quarterback competition in the Arkansas game. LSU decided to play Garrett Nussmeier instead of Max Johnson, who's been the starter for the majority of the season. So they decided to roll with the young gun. And I mean, he almost pulled off the win and threw an interception in overtime. They decided that he didn't really show anything substantially compelling to give him the starting spot. So now he's redshirting, and Max Johnson's back with the starting spot. But the offense has really struggled to get to the red zone, really punch in those points, just finish drives. So, running game was really effective against Florida, as we saw, but passing game has been lacking without Kayshon Boutte, who is their star wide receiver, and they haven't seemed to have found a guy who can kind of take his spot other than Jack Besh, who's tight end, and but he's not, lighting it up,
And we welcome in now Robert Cessna of the Eagle as well. Robert, what's going on? Oh, maybe frozen. That's okay. We'll move on. See if he's able to figure out the technical difficulties. Wilson, I know we defense was something I wanted to talk about. You look at the stats, and it's actually a team that has been able to get penetration and get some pressure on the quarterback, at least statistically, in the last couple of games. How much of that was the defensive change that enabled them to get some of that pressure in on the quarterback, or was that something they've been able to be something they've been good at all season?
It was interesting. At the start of the year, they were pretty good at getting pressure on the quarterback. For a time, I don't remember exactly how long, they'd led the country in sacks, but they were doing that out of an entirely four-man front, just sending forward. They weren't blitzing really at all. LSU came out of the Ole Miss game near the end of October, heading into its bye week, with one of the lowest blitz rates in the country. It did not blitz at all because it was running such a sort of basic defense. Well, once they made those changes, they started blitzing a ton. And that was kind of the big thing in the blitz. So sending a ton of pressure, leaving kind of the middle of the field open, not many safeties in the middle. And they have one of the higher blitz rates in the country. There was a defensive analyst who came up with the zero blitzes, something that Ed Orgeron had never run at LSU. He doesn't believe in zero blitz, but they went with it, and it's been very effective for them. It's a little bit of a risk doing it because you leave a lot of your secondary guys exposed, but they've held up back there so far. They've kind of kept their opposing offenses off balance by doing it.
Leah, I know that you've been you came onto the beat halfway through the season, but what is it about this defense? I know the defense has been something that has really turned around, like you said, because of the changes. Well, what are some little of the details about this defense that you feel like is really made them so successful in the last handful of games?
Yeah, I think what Wilson was saying, it speaks to it. The pressure on the quarterback. I mean, we saw that against Alabama. Bryce Young was really struggling. I think they get in your head a little bit. And you've got some really talented linebackers with Damone Clark, Buck Kiss Award finalist, Micah Baskerville I just wrote about, and even Mike Jones, who kind of plays that outside linebacker position sometimes. And those are kind of your leaders of the defense, like your leading tacklers. I mean, certainly the front three or front four, depending on what front they come up with, are very strong, but it's also shifted quite a bit, with injuries and stuff. But what has stayed consistent is these linebackers, and they're the ones that are kind of coming through and picking up coming through those gaps and like really picking up the pressure, really adding to that pressure, especially on those blitzing plays. The secondary right now is very young because they've kind of been injured, so many of them are out. And so I think they're just kind of relying on the strength at the front of the defense and, the linebackers who are their leading tacklers, their most aggressive guys. And it's really interesting to watch. I think Alabama had a net of like -6 rushing yards. So they're really eliminating the running game for most teams. And, but that also leaves them vulnerable to some big plays. And I think that we've seen a couple of breakthrough plays, even with ULM last week, a couple of breakthrough pass plays. Blitzing is it's risky.
This game, I think, just by nature of being the last game of the season, is why you're always going to get this. But there's always some kind of extra storyline. You had the will they or won't they fire Les Miles a handful of games ago at Kyle Field. You have then Joe Burrow, the big farewell 2 years ago, and the absolute thrashing of the Aggies in Baton Rouge. And now you have what could be definitely is going to be Coach Ed Orgeron's last regular season game, bowl game, depending on what they do this weekend. What's been that atmosphere around this final game for Coach O? Because it has seemed it's always an interesting thing when you have a coach who stays around after he's been fired to play, because in the middle of the season, you have, I assume, angry fans or fans who kind of want to see a change. And now it's kind of this love fest towards the end of the season, as it seems like, when you look at the Twitter and the message boards and the conversation around a coach that at least at one time was pretty beloved by the fan base. What's that dynamic like?
Yeah, I can start us off on this one. It's interesting. There are parts of the fan base who still really love him because they still see the coach who in many ways kind of represented them, a Cajun, a Louisiana guy who became the head coach at LSU and led them to a national championship and arguably the greatest season in college football history. I mean, that 2019 year was just unreal, and it gave people so much joy down in Louisiana. But then the last 2 years have been so bad, and there's been a lot of off the field issues that have cropped up as well. And now you have a lot of people who are really this year in particular became just kind of apathetic to this whole season. Regardless of where it was going to go. Obviously, the team didn't look good. And then when it got fired, there's certainly some people who don't think he can get out of town soon enough. There's some people who will be sad to see him go. He leaves behind a very sort of mixed and complicated legacy. And how people are going to think about him moving forward is going to be, you're going to get a lot of different opinions about Ed Orgeron. But the kind of overwhelming thing I think that you find is that he always did it however he wanted to do it. And he was on Ed Orgeron to the end, and that is what will probably be left behind the most.
Leah, when you look at what of course the players say, they're going to fight hard for the coach, and how much do you expect this to be a little bit of a stronger effort, a little bit of a more impassioned effort, because they do want to send their coach off on a high note?
I think it's not just about that. I think a lot of the players have said to us, like, we're LSU, it's kind of embarrassing to not be winning as much. And I think they not only want to do it for Ed, but they also want to do it for the sake of the name. And with it being the last game with Ed, I think that adds an extra edge. And I think, it's not just Ed, it's like the coaching staff as a whole. You don't know. I think I'm trying to remember which player told us yesterday. He was like, well, they're all fighting. They probably don't have a job after this either. And they, position coaches are who they work with so intimately. And so, but yeah, all the players have such close relationships with Orgeron, with the assistant coaches. So it does feel like they're trying to extend this season if possible, because they want to maximize on that time together. These are the people that they've grown with. And any player, any athlete is close to their coach, and usually so.
Yeah. So heading into this game, what's the key matchups that y'all are looking at that you like between Texas A&M and LSU? What excites you the most?
For me, it's the Texas A&M running game versus LSU's defensive front. We've talked about this a little bit already, how LSU with this defense the last couple of weeks, it's been really hard to run on this group now. They were struggling with gap discipline for a while, especially in the middle of the season, and giving up rushing yards just in bunches. And Texas A&M seems like, run heavy offense with those two really good backs with Spiller. And I'm going to mess up his pronunciation of his name, Arcane, I think. Thank you.
Chain.
Thank you, Travis. My apologies to him and his family.
We've all done it.
Yeah, but anyway, against Alabama, 6 net rushing yards. It was tied. It was the lowest ever for a Nick Saban coached Alabama team, and tied for the lowest in Alabama history. And then Arkansas had almost no success running the ball either, other than their quarterback KJ Jefferson kind of breaking contain and scrambling. And ULM, which is a pretty run heavy offense, averaged about 3 yards a carry. And so for me, it's, can Texas A&M run the ball on LSU defensive front? If not, can Zach, Calzada actually, and create a downfield passing game, and can this become a high scoring game? It doesn't seem like it's going to, maybe the first one to 20 wins.
Leah, what are you looking for?
I think the same thing is there. I mean, I'm interested to see how many points A&M is able to score on this LSU defense. It's certainly their strength. But I'm also wondering if there's something in Jake Peetz's back pocket on offense, which the offense has been kind of lacking. And, I know that defense, A&M's pass defense is up there. It's like one of the best in the SEC. So I'm interested to see if they get creative. Maybe Max Johnson's like, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. Let's let it rip. Let's throw some 60-yard bombs. Let's see. So I'm kind of interested to see if we finally see an offense that with renewed creativity. I'm interested to see if Ty Davis Price does get to 1,000 yards. I think that'd be awesome for him. In the midst of a season with a lot of negatives. And Wilson wrote a really good story about him and kind of what he plays for and his daughter. And so, I'm interested to see if LSU can score points. I know that sounds really pessimistic, but I'm hoping to see some creativity on offense.
I think A&M fans were kind of wondering the same thing too. Last week at Prairie View was the outlier with that kind of late season, tune-up game, but the offense hasn't necessarily put points on the board in the weeks before that. So it could be a rock fight a little bit between these two. Let's end it on this. Prediction, if you have a score prediction or just who you think is going to win. If you're not a prediction person, let's go with this. Will we see a bare-chested Ed Ogeron? What do y'all think?
100%.
I think so.
We will.
I hope so. I mean, obviously it's going to be really interesting to see, just kind of watch him throughout this last home game. I mean, Ed has been cracking jokes about buying hamburgers with his buyout and laughing, trying to make us laugh at different points. And, just sort of, he's been very loose ever since he got fired and taking risks in games and just kind of, he wants to win. It's not like he's sort of fought back against the notion that they've had nothing to lose. It's like, he went back to the, that old Herm Edwards thing. You play to win the game. He even brought that up and mimicked it. And yet he's been so loose with it that I have to imagine he is just going to be absolutely fired up, probably fueled by energy drinks. And he's already taken his shirt off after the ULM game in preparation for the Texas A&M game. And so I hope he does something. I don't know if he, gets carried off the field even if they lose, or I don't know what he's going to do. I would expect him to do something fairly memorable. As for prediction on my end, I don't know the exact score in my head yet for what I'm going to say, but I do believe Texas A&M wins. I think it's a more complete, stronger team. LSU's probably going to play inspired. I mean, these are a lot of guys, 19 seniors who are facing their last game, the prospect of their last game. They don't want to go out on especially when the last 2 years have gone, they don't want to end on a loss and have the first losing season in LSU since 1999 if they lose this game. And but A&M seems like a better team and a little bit stronger on the areas where it really counts on the offensive line and the defense as well.
I hate to predict that Texas A&M is going to win a game because I am a Texas Longhorn at heart.
I didn't know if you were going to bring that up on this podcast or not. I have to bring this up.
But I will acknowledge that Texas A&M is a really good team. I hate that, but I'll acknowledge it. So I think A&M gets the win. I am expecting that it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be some fake punts. I think we're going to see some wildcat. I think we're going to see maybe a fake field goal. I feel like go crazy, Ed. Go crazy. I feel like he'll shoot his shot on anything, especially if you're struggling getting the red zone. why not? I know he says that, there's nothing to lose, and he's like, the game. And I'm like, well, at this point, there's really nothing to lose per se. So I'm hoping to see some creativity. I think we'll see the shirtless Orgeron. I don't know if we ask for that, but it'll happen. So my score prediction, I think it'll be kind of like a Big Ten score, actually. I think it's going to be like a 21-14, 21-17 to the Aggies. The Aggies.
I don't know. I'm gonna veer off here a little bit. I know you went to UT. Did you always grow up a UT fan? Do you have some A&M Texas Thanksgiving game memories in the bank, or was that something that you jumped on the UT bandwagon when you went there, like a lot of people do with their college?
Yeah, I actually did not grow up a super Texas fan. Texas was it was like one of my favorite teams. I actually grew up a Michigan fan because my dad went there. My uncle went to Texas A&M. I love him dearly. He's the only Aggie I love. But now I also like the running back in my high school, Jonathan Gray, went and played for Texas. That was kind of a big spark to my love too. And, of course I watched the national championship. Of course I still love Vince Young and Colt McCoy. And, I followed all of that growing up. I loved it. And I never really had a connection to A&M because my uncle's not that big of a football fan. And I toured both schools. There is a picture of me out there with Reveille. So that's blackmail, I guess. But
we have to find this.
I know,
yeah,
right? I know.
It's out there. But
I mean, it happens to all of us. As everyone knows, I'm a Horned Frog, and my senior year, I grew up an SMU fan all my life because that's where my parents went. And the year before, I rushed the field with the students when SMU beat TCU. So it happens to the best of us. But you pick where you go, and then you're a fan for life.
Well, my mom went to UTA. My brother spent a year at UTSA, which is now the perennial football program in Texas.
Yeah.
So,
there you go.
Go Road Runners, as they say. But yeah, I grew up like a semi-Texas fan. Then it grew, unfortunately, when I went to college in the Charlie Strong era. So
there you go. Okay. Well, actually, we will close out on this. And this is an easy one. For the A&M fans that are coming into town, you talk about Edo wanting to buy a whole lot of cheeseburgers. Where's the best place that A&M fans can buy a few cheeseburgers or any of your favorite food in Baton Rouge coming in this weekend?
There's a couple of good burger spots. Curbside on Government Street is really good. Burger Smith is pretty good as well. I know some other folks like Fat Cow. They have a very distinct bun for what it's worth. But if you're looking for just any food in general, obviously Louisiana is so distinct with its cuisine that forgetting off the top of my head, just because there's so many that you kind of lose track of all of them. Goodness, Leah, help me out here. Where have you been in your early weeks that you particularly liked? Where have we taken you so far that you enjoyed?
Well, I guess Chimes is kind of a staple of Baton Rouge, right next to campus. I don't know if I'd go there on game day as an Aggie, though. I will say I don't remember all the restaurants I've been to, but I haven't had a bad meal in Baton Rouge. Where did we go for breakfast? That was really good.
Oh, Ruby Slipper. Yeah, if you're looking for a brunch, kind of right in the middle of things, right kind of in the middle of Baton Rouge. I was also going to throw in Mike Anderson's is a local favorite, been around for a long time. If you're looking just for a sports bar, Walk-Ons is, of course, kind of everywhere, but it's got its start in Baton Rouge. Mm-hmm. And that's, fairly reliable if you're just looking for a sports bar. But there's so many options, just search on Google and you'll usually be able to find something pretty reliable and tasty.
You'll be overwhelmed. I won't tell you what my favorite coffee shops are because I don't want to see Aggies there.
What, we usually go to a barbecue spot. I think it's where they do the coaches shows or something like that. Is that
TJ Ribs? Yeah, but Exactly. Being from Texas
Okay.
Aggie fans, do not go to TJ Ribs. You'll be disappointed.
There you go.
Do go there. Yes, do go there.
They have
Enjoy
a good bread or something. There's something good about it. I don't know. Anyway, so thanks for you guys. Where is people can reach you? Both just read your stuff, or if you want to send Leah hate mail for all the Aggie hate that she's had on this podcast, where can they reach you? And is that you send it the tweets to Wilson if you want to reach Leah to hate mail? Is that how that works?
I wouldn't do that to her, but you can find me on Twitter at WHAlexander_. It's not a whale thing. People sometimes think I have a whale thing. And also we're both at theadvocate.com or NOLA.com. It's where you can find all of our LSU coverage if you are, as a Texas A&M fan, so inclined to find it.
There you go. Leah, do you want to share how to get a hold of you if people want to find your work?
Absolutely not.
There you go. Fair.
If you can type in Leah Vann and you'll find me. DMs close to Aggies. Thank you.
There you go. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Y'all have a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And thanks everyone for listening. This has been another My Aggie Nation podcast. We'll see you again next week.
It seems like every day, everything just has a way to burst at the seams. But if we don't watch what we're doing, our hearts will get ruined by silly things. Good love ain't easy, girl, we know that's true. And if we wanna keep it, we gotta watch everything that we do, yeah. Don't wanna make sure, my baby, make sure you're sticking with me. Don't wanna make sure